Hey there, and welcome. If you're trying to conceive, you know that the time after ovulation can be, well, it's a mix of hope and a ton of questions. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the crucial steps you can take to really support your body during that implantation phase, all based on the great guidance from our source material.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get a handle on what implantation actually is. Then, we'll pinpoint that critical window when your actions can have the biggest impact. From there, we'll get into the important stuff, precautions for your diet and exercise, how to manage stress and medication, and then, of course, we'll answer that huge question, when is the right time to take a pregnancy test for an accurate result?
All right, let's dive right in. Before we get to all the how-tos, it's so important to understand what's actually happening inside your body during this whole implantation process.
Okay, so picture this. After fertilization, this tiny little embryo starts its big journey down the fallopian tube and heads to the uterus. Implantation, that's the moment of arrival. It's when it snuggles into the uterine wall and attaches. That one single event is the true start of a pregnancy. Pretty amazing, right? So now that we know what it is, let's talk about when it happens. Timing is everything. And our source highlights a very, very specific window where what you do can really make a difference.
Let's just take a quick look at a typical cycle timeline here. If day 1 is when your period starts, ovulation usually happens around day 14. That makes the days leading up to it, say day 10 to 20, your most fertile window. But here's the key part. It's what happens next that we're focused on. That period from day 21 and onward, that's your implantation window.
And this brings us to a really important recommendation from the source material. To give that little embryo the best, most stable environment to attach, the advice is to actually avoid intercourse starting from day 20 of your cycle. The thinking is that uterine contractions could potentially interfere with that super delicate process of implantation.
Okay, so we've got the timing down. Now let's talk about how everyday things like what you eat and how you move your body should be adjusted during this really sensitive implantation window. Now, this is a really interesting point from our source that pulls from some traditional wellness ideas. It talks about avoiding foods with what's known as hot potency. Think really spicy foods, things that generate heat. The idea is that these could potentially interfere with implantation. Instead, the recommendation is to focus on cool potency foods like yogurt and raisins, and also to really boost your protein with things like nuts and milk to help support your body. This one is pretty straightforward, but absolutely vital. During that implantation window, so after day 20, the source strongly advises against any kind of strenuous activity. We're talking about intense gym workouts, running, heavy cycling. The whole goal here is just to keep your body calm and avoid any major physical stress. But hey, avoiding heavy exercise doesn't mean you have to become a couch potato. Actually, it's quite the opposite. The source really recommends embracing gentle, calming movements. It's all about finding that healthy balance. Things like meditation, some light yoga, and even simple breathing exercises can do wonders to reduce stress and improve circulation, creating a much more favorable environment for implantation.
We've covered what you can do on the outside, but what's happening on the inside is just as important, if not more so. Things we can't always see, like stress hormones and even common medicines, can play a huge role.
This quote from our source explains the science behind it perfectly. See, stress isn't just a feeling in your head. It creates a real chemical reaction in your body. Your body releases the stress hormone, cortisol. This, in turn, can raise something called prostaglandin levels, which can lead to hormonal imbalances and even uterine contractions or bleeding, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid.
So, how do you fight back against that stress? Well, the good news is it doesn't have to be complicated. The source suggests really simple, comforting activities. Put on some light music, get lost in a good book, or just call up a friend and have a nice chat. Honestly, anything that makes you feel happy and relaxed is a win.
All right, this next point is so critical, and it's something a lot of people overlook. During this implantation window, you have to be extremely careful about any medications you're taking, especially the ones you can just grab over the counter.
Our source warns that common painkillers, we're talking about NSAIDs, aspirin, even paracetamol, can potentially interfere with the implantation process. So the guideline here is crystal clear. Do not take any of these without talking to your doctor first. It's that important. And that brings us to our final section. And I know it's a big one. You've been so careful, you've followed all the steps, so when can you finally take a pregnancy test?
This is probably one of the most stressful questions in this whole journey, isn't it?
Everybody wants to know as soon as possible, but timing your test correctly is the absolute key to avoiding unnecessary stress and disappointment.
And here it is, the #1 mistake people make: testing before your period is even due. See, an at-home urine test needs a certain level of the pregnancy hormone, HCG, before it can give you a positive result. If you test too early, when those hormone levels are still super low, you're almost guaranteed to get a false negative.
So what's the right way to do it? The source gives us a simple 2-step process for the most reliable result. Step 1, wait until your period is officially missed. So the day it was supposed to start has come and gone. Then for the absolute highest accuracy, step 2 is to wait 1 full week after your missed period before you test. This gives your body plenty of time to build up enough HCG to be detected.
You know, when you really look at it, all of these steps, from what you eat to how you move to when you finally test, they all boil down to 2 powerful things: patience and self-care. It's really about creating a calm, supportive environment for yourself, both emotionally and physically. So the question I want to leave you with is this: are you truly giving your body the gentle support it needs during this really hopeful time?